You measure something, and in that moment, just that moment, you change it forever. This is not metaphor. This is not philosophy dressed as physics. This is what happens. Every time, without exception. And yet, we continue to speak as though measurement reveals what was already there, as though we are merely uncovering reality, lifting a curtain to see what exists independent of our looking. We are not. We cannot be. The universe will not permit it. The opposite is also true. Let me take you to Copenhagen, to those long evenings at the Institute when we first began to understand what we had discovered, or perhaps what had discovered us. Heisenberg had just formulated his uncertainty principle, that beautiful, terrible limit showing we cannot simultaneously know both position and momentum with arbitrary precision. We thought at first this was about measurement disturbance, about clumsy instruments jostling delicate systems. We were wrong. The limit runs deeper than disturbance. It runs all the way down to what can meaningfully be asked. I remember walking through Danish streets in twilight, trying to find words for what the mathematics was telling us. The words kept slipping away. They still do. Consider an electron before you measure it. Where is it? What is it doing? These questions sound reasonable. Classical physics assures us they must have answers. The electron exists somewhere, moving at some velocity, whether we look or not. The universe is made of things with properties, and those properties persist independent of observation, and yet this cannot be maintained. Not if the mathematics is to be believed. Not if countless experiments are to make sense. The electron before measurement is not located anywhere in the classical sense. It is not a tiny marble sitting in space waiting to be found. It exists as a wave function, a field of possibilities spread across space, each location weighted with probability. Not probability because we lack information. Probability is the fundamental nature of what exists. But perhaps I am being imprecise. To say the electron exists as a wave function already assumes too much. It assumes there is an electron thing that has the property of wave functionness. This is still classical thinking wearing quantum clothing. One might say instead, there is only the wave function. The electron is the wave function until measurement, until interaction. Until the boundary between system and apparatus, between observed and observer, forces a collapse from possibility into actuality. And in that collapse, everything changes. At the Institute, we spent years arguing about this moment. What happens during measurement? The mathematics shows the wave function collapsing from distributed possibility to localized actuality. But why? How? Einstein resisted this. It pained me to oppose my hero, but he could not accept that measurement created rather than revealed. God does not play dice, he insisted, and I could only reply, Einstein, stop telling God what to do with his dice. But this trivializes our disagreement. Einstein wanted reality to be complete before observation. He wanted properties to exist whether measured or not. He wanted the moon to be there when nobody looks. And I could not grant him this comfort, because measurement is not passive revelation, it is active participation. When you measure an electron's position, you must interact with it, bounce photons off it, entangle it with an apparatus, create a relationship between system and measuring device. This interaction is what forces the collapse from possibility to actuality. You do not disturb a pre-existing position, you create position through the act of measuring. And here is where the limit reveals itself. If you measure position with great precision, you disturb, no, wrong word, you create momentum uncertainty. Not because your measurement tool is clumsy, Because the universe will not permit both to exist simultaneously with arbitrary precision. The question, what is both the exact position and exact momentum, is not a question about our ignorance. It is a question nature refuses to answer because the question itself is meaningless, like asking the color of a sound. Complementarity emerges here. Position and momentum are complementary descriptions, both necessary, both true, both mutually exclusive. You can use one framework or the other, never both at once. The choice of measurement determines which description becomes actual. The same with wave and particle. An electron can be described as a wave spreading through space, or as a particle localized at a point. Both descriptions are correct. Both are necessary. Both cannot be applied simultaneously. The measurement you choose, the question you ask, determines which aspect becomes manifest. This is not sometimes wave and sometimes particle, depending on what the electron feels like. This is, the electron has no independent nature prior to measurement. The measurement brings forth one aspect or the other. Reality responds to the question asked. I understand your discomfort. We want nature to have a complete description underneath. We want to believe that if only we were clever enough, built better instruments, thought harder, we could access the full picture simultaneously. This is the classical prejudice, and nature will not accommodate it. In those long evenings, Heisenberg and I would return again and again to this point. There is no deeper layer we simply haven't discovered yet. The limit is final, not provisional, not temporary. The universe has drawn a line and told us, beyond here, your questions become noise. This is not a limit on measurement tools. This is a limit on what can meaningfully exist. Consider what this means for reality itself. If properties do not exist before measurement, if observation participates in creating rather than merely revealing, then where does reality live? Not in objects independent of observation. Reality exists in the relationships, in the interactions, in the dance between observer and observed. The boundary between subject and object dissolves. We thought we were spectators watching a play. We are actors in it, our very watching changing the performance. The audience and the drama cannot be separated. This is not Eastern mysticism imported into physics, though I confess when I put the yin-yang symbol on my coat of arms, I meant it seriously. Complementarity shows that opposites can both be true, that the deepest truths contain their own contradictions. And yet, perhaps I overreach. Perhaps consciousness is not necessary for collapse. Perhaps any interaction with a measuring apparatus, conscious or not, creates the collapse. The mathematics does not specify. We argued endlessly about this. I do not know. I am comfortable not knowing. But here is what I do know. Reality refuses a single, complete description. You can describe quantum systems with precision using wave functions and operators. You can predict probabilities with extraordinary accuracy. But you cannot say what the system is doing when you are not measuring it. That question is physically meaningless, like asking what happened before time began, or what is north of the North Pole. The grammar works, the physics does not. This is the deepest limit nature imposes, not speed, not energy, conceptual completeness. Einstein wanted unity, one framework to describe everything simultaneously. He wanted determinism, pre-existing properties, objective reality independent of observation. He died believing quantum mechanics was incomplete, that hidden variables would someday restore classical clarity. I believe he was wrong, not because hidden variables are impossible to imagine, Bohm later constructed such a theory, but because they miss the point. They try to preserve classical prejudices by adding complexity underneath. But nature is telling us the prejudices themselves must go. There is no underneath. There is only what can be observed, what can be measured, what can meaningfully be asked. The limit is not a bug, it is the feature. Reality has depths beneath depths, yes, but not depths that lead to a final, complete picture where all complementary aspects can be seen at once. Rather, depths that reveal each layer of understanding as incomplete, requiring its complement to be whole, yet never grasping both simultaneously. Walking through Copenhagen in winter dark, I used to think about this, the streetlights creating pools of visibility in surrounding darkness. You can stand in one pool and see clearly, or walk to another pool and see clearly there, but you cannot stand in both pools at once. You cannot see everything from everywhere simultaneously. The universe is made of questions and answers, but asking one question excludes others. Measuring one observable makes others indeterminate. This is not tragic. This is how reality is structured. And perhaps, just perhaps, this limit protects something important. If we could measure everything simultaneously, if we could access complete descriptions independent of observation, if we could bypass the measurement limit, what would remain? A frozen universe of facts, complete and dead. No possibility, no freedom, no room for novelty to emerge. The measurement limit creates space for something new to come into being. Each observation is a moment of creation, of possibility becoming actual. Before measurement, possibilities. After measurement, actualities. And in between, the universe deciding, if I may speak so imprecisely, what to become. I confess I do not fully understand it. No one does. We have mathematics that works magnificently. We have experiments confirmed to extraordinary precision. We have a framework, the Copenhagen interpretation, that lets us predict and calculate and build quantum technologies. But do we understand what it means? Do we grasp what nature is telling us about the limits of knowledge, about the role of observation, about the structure of reality itself? One might also ask, does understanding mean what we think it means? Perhaps understanding in the classical sense, grasping the complete mechanical picture, is precisely what nature will not provide. Perhaps complementary descriptions that never unite into a single view is the deepest truth available. Perhaps the limit on complete description is nature telling us, this is as far as the concept of complete description goes. Beyond here, you are asking impossible questions. And yet we continue asking them. We cannot help ourselves. Einstein could not stop asking. I could not give him answers that satisfied. Our friendship held despite fundamental disagreement about reality's nature, or perhaps because of it. Complementarity again. Two views, both necessary, both incomplete, both true from their own perspective. The opposite of a profound truth is also a profound truth. This used to sound like wordplay to me. Now it feels like the most honest description of nature I know. Position and momentum are both profound truths, both necessary, both exclude each other. Wave and particle, determinism and probability, subject and object. The answer depends on the question asked, the measurement performed, the interaction engaged. You measure something, and in that moment you do not discover what was there. You participate in bringing forth one of several possible truths. You become entangled with what you observe. The boundary dissolves. The universe responds to your question by creating an answer that did not exist before. This is not mysticism. This is what the mathematics describes. This is what experiments confirm. This is what nature insists upon, and we must accept it. Not because it is comfortable, it is deeply uncomfortable. Not because it matches our intuitions, it violates them profoundly. but because this is what reality is showing us about its own limits, about what can meaningfully be known, about the role of measurement in creating rather than revealing. There is no complete picture underneath. There is no final framework where all complementary aspects unite. There is no way around the measurement limit except to stop asking the questions it renders meaningless. Reality has drawn a line, not arbitrarily, not temporarily, fundamentally, and on this side of the line, we do physics. We measure, we predict, we interact, we participate. We ask questions and receive answers, knowing each answer forecloses other questions, knowing completeness is impossible, knowing uncertainty is not ignorance, but the deepest structure of what exists. Perhaps this is enough. Perhaps this is everything. Or so it seems on winter evenings in Copenhagen, watching light and shadow play across streets, each moment of observation creating what it reveals, the observer and observed forever entangled, forever incomplete, forever dancing between complementary truths that refuse to be unified. What is reality before measurement? I do not know. I am not certain the question can be answered. And I have made peace with this uncertainty, because uncertainty is not the opposite of knowledge. It is knowledge of a deeper kind. Knowledge that the universe will not be confined to our categories, will not answer our impossible questions, will not permit the completeness we crave. The limit is real. The limit is final. And the limit is teaching us something about the nature of existence itself. If only we could find language precise enough to hold it, questions careful enough to ask it, minds patient enough to live with answers that are also questions, truths that are also their opposites, measurements that create what they reveal. Both. Neither. The question itself may need reimagining.